Look, y'all can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BFredJones. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, _G Sports with a Z on the end. And on Twitter, G_Sports with a Z on the end.
You can follow me on Instagram at big_homie_hen and on Twitter at HeyYoU15.
What's up, y'all? I'm Austin Claunch, head coach at Nicholls Basketball, and I'm always watching the Fanview podcast.
Man, we live, y'all.
Here we go.
Here we go. Listen,
Another episode,
Fanview podcast.
got my main man, Austin Claunch, in the building. Nicholls State head coach, head basketball coach, going into your 5th year.
That's right, man. How crazy is that?
I remember the press conference. You didn't have the facial hair.
Nah, I'm getting old.
You looked a little younger.
Look like a young man.
I'm losing hair. That's why I got the beanie on. I don't want,
Cowboys?
I do got a problem with you wearing a Cowboys beanie. I ain't gonna lie to you. I really got a problem with it. Y'all 4-2. I thought all the injuries y'all was having in preseason and during training camp, I just knew this is gonna be a season where y'all was gonna be in the top 5 pick of a draft.
We don't fold, man. And it's like I tell you, there's fans of other teams, but for Cowboys fans, we're not really fans. We were born to wear the star.
Oh my God.
Man. I had to come in and represent the boys today.
Listen,
so.
he had to come in and rub it in. Because the last time he was on the show,
That's right.
he told you, G,
He did.
the Saints were going to lose to the Cowboys.
He did.
But
That was in the dome, if I'm
It was
not
in the dome,
mistaken.
but it really was a sucker bet. I mean, Trevor Siemian was the quarterback. We had no Michael Thomas. We had no Deontay Hardy. We had no Kamara.
Well, he sees what we're doing with the backup quarterback. we're not out here making excuses.
I'm just saying but I live up to my best. I really went into Walmart to try to get a Cowboy shirt to wear on the show. I couldn't find it.
I meant to bring my Urban jersey today. I'm not going to forget it next time I see you, so we'll get the picture.
Look, when I show up to a Nicholls game this year, I will have a Cowboy jersey or some kind of apparel on.
You got to live up to your bets, man.
I got to, man. I live up to my bets. I live up to them. Coach, 5th year, man. 5th year, man. You kind of almost considered to be a vet in the game, man. Talk about going into your 5th year. As Nicholls State head basketball coach last year, a hell of a season, 21 wins.
Right.
Regular season Southland Conference Championship, man. I remember being in that, in Stouffer. No, not Stouffer.
Stouffer.
I thought they changed the name. In Stouffer Arena against UNO, electric atmosphere.
Man.
Ty Gordon put on a show. I thought that was a game that declared him as a Southland Conference player of the year. Just talk about, going into this 5th year, man.
It's funny, after that first year of coaching, your first year you feel young, you feel like you're new, but then after that, every year you feel like a vet. You just feel old, and you're trying to ultimately do things to help your program, just little by little, get to that next step. In every program, of course, we're at a point now where we're sort of trying to figure out how to finish that last hurdle. We've won the regular season title now twice, and trying to complete the mission, at the conference tournament.
Win the Southland tournament.
Win the Southland tournament and go to the NCAA tournament ultimately. NIT was a great experience last year. With that being said, obviously we want to make the NCAA tournament. Doesn't take away from the regular season title and then getting to go to the NIT and first time in school history. Right. And then with this group coming back, it's funny, like we were just talking about. We lose 3 incredibly important pieces, but. It's the most. It's actually, since I've been a head coach, the most returning players I've ever had. And so we do have a core of guys now that are stepping into a lot of new roles, and oftentimes that can take even more time than when you have a brand new team. Just asserting new roles, understanding what we need them to do. It's not like last year. Not just from a personnel standpoint, but I think we're going to play a little bit differently. I think our style and our identity won't quite be the same. And that's
gonna play fast, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's even in. I find myself, in games sometimes, just even just under my breath, we're out here playing, and I hear myself just say, "Shoot it,"
Right.
You want
that's the
you
guard
want
in
your guys to, you want your guys to play with that type of confidence and that type of aggression. So, no, we're still going to play fast, but we got a lot of work to do, but I like our group.
But speaking about playing fast, where did that style of coaching come from? Like, every coach, when you watch them, even like ACC coaches, like let's say like Mike Krzyzewski or somebody, everyone has a style. If you go watch the Big Ten with Tom Izzo, everybody has a style. Where did that style of playing fast, where did that come from for you?
Well, when I was in college, the coach I played for, he played at Davidson. They kind of play that free-flowing up and down. And I don't even necessarily like to say that I like to play fast. I don't really even say that, but I certainly want our guys to play with freedom, you know, and I want to take a great shot. If we can get it in 3 seconds, then let's do that every possession. If it takes 27 seconds, then we'll take it then. But I like to say that we have a structure in how we run, discipline in the format that we play, but within that, I want our guys to be them. There's a reason I recruited them. They can do things, quite frankly, that, I always like to say I like to recruit offense and coach defense, right? And I think, when you get talented guys and get them to compete and take pride defensively and care about each other, and then on the flip side of it, just learn spacing, share the game, play within concepts, and learn to play free without playing selfish, Learn to be hungry without being thirsty, and just, I think share the ball, share the game, and I think when you do that, I think you see results.
I do want to talk about you when you first got into the coaching game at George Mason and playing for, who I think is one of the best coaches that I've ever got to witness since I've been watching college basketball, and Paul Hewitt. And how did that job interview even come about? Because, Paul Hewitt had a lot of success at Georgia Tech. I know his first 2 years at George Mason was successful. His last 2 years that wasn't pretty good. But talk about getting that interview, man, and what went into it, and how you got them ties to Coach Hewitt to even get an opportunity to coach at George Mason with him.
Just like so many things in life, man, it was lucky to start. My final year at Emory University, where I played in Atlanta, we had a guy, volunteer assistant with us, and he had worked with Coach Hewitt at Georgia Tech.
Right.
He actually had been asked by Coach Hewitt to go to George Mason with him. His wife happened to have just a great job in Atlanta, and so they were going to stay in Atlanta, and he wanted to stay around the game. So while he took on some other another job, he still wanted to stay around the game. So he ended up sort of just helping with the Emory program.
Right.
I get to know him through that. He knows I want to coach. When the season got done, he basically sort of just formed that introduction. Hey, Coach Hewitt needs kind of an entry-level guy. I think you'd be great for him. And he sort of just set up the entire thing. We ended up doing an interview in Atlanta. Coach Hewitt at the time, I think they still have a house in Atlanta. Coach Hewitt's living good now. He's got a couple houses, different places. But so I think we met at a hotel there and just.
So you went into this interview like blind, not even having a conversation with him in person before.
Never.
Wow.
Never met him.
Wow.
And I remember I'm a student of the game, right? So this guy's like a celebrity to me.
Yeah, man.
I might say.
Coach Chris Bosh.
So Derek
Fields.
No, the list goes on. People don't realize
coach some dudes.
No,
he coached some dudes.
Jordan Morrow.
Anthony Morrow.
Anthony Morrow. No, he's got Mario West. Javarius Critton and Jared Jack. Will Bynum. The list goes on.
I forgot about Will Bynum.
People forget
he coached some dudes.
People forget how many professionals he's coached.
I really was surprised. I think he got to one Final Four with Jared Jack.
They lost in the championship to
Yeah.
UConn. The year
With
after
Jared Jack.
Bosh
With
left,
Jared Jack.
Yeah.
they lost in the championship to UConn.
Yeah.
They beat,
And really, I think they might have been like a 7 seed or something like
they
that.
were 3.
Three seed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But so
That's
but
the
anyway,
amount of guys he coaches.
yeah.
A testament.
Yeah, and he, but anyway, did the interview with him. I remember being so nervous, and then he walks in, and I'm a shorter D3 point guard, and here comes this dude. He's every bit of 6'6", and I'm like, dang man, he doesn't look that tall on TV. Tall man,
6'6"?
tall,
Wow.
yeah man, tall, and he's just but he's Coach Hewitt, man, is just the salt of the earth, and I know it's kind of cliche to say it, but.
Right.
Incredible coach, even better person. Taught me so much, not just about the X's and O's and recruiting, he's incredible at that, but also just professionalism, handling your business, being an adult, what it takes,
right,
to be successful in this profession. And not just like when things are good. We had a good year, but, we had some downs as well that year, George Mason. Some games that we felt we should have won that we lost.
So you got there his last 2 years?
So I was there. We were still in the CAA.
Gotcha.
And so we were 22. I was only there 1 year. We were 22-16. We lost in the championship of the CBI.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then when I left, that's when they made the jump to the A10.
Different.
And
St. Joseph.
Yeah, oh man, like VCU.
That's when Dayton still was in the.
Everybody, Dayton, VCU, St. Bonnie, St. Louis. I mean, just Rhode Island. At that time, one of the best. I mean, still one of the best, but at that time, probably the best mid. I mean, they were getting 3 or 4 teams in the NCAA tournament.
VC was always getting it.
Yeah,
so what was your role that 1 year at George Mason? Like, that's your first time getting into college coaching.
Right.
Like, what was your role?
Man, and we didn't have a huge staff. It wasn't like when I was at Clemson. I was really the only support staff guy. We had a really active student manager who was kind of my sidekick, and we had. I did everything. I helped with scouts. I helped on the floor. I helped with, whatever.
How old were you at this time?
22. I got the job at 22, and then I turned 23 during the season.
So you really was able to relate to a lot of the players on the team and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think, that was a big part of it, too. I think just being fresh out of school and,
you the same era as them.
I was still that, like, cocky little player that thought I could play with these dudes. And,
probably used to play pickup with them.
Of course, I play pickup with our guys now.
You still do?
Yeah.
Wow. Man, Coach DeLue said he used to be the best on the staff when he was there at Nicholls.
That's probably up for debate. But we've had some players now. We've had some coaches that can play. But yeah, I think just being around the guys and I felt that I was able to develop relationships where I could, not at first, but then you get to a point where even as a GA, like, hey man, you can get on them. Hey man, you're really BSing. You're not doing the work.
You're not doing the work.
At times, because you know how it is as a player. Like coach is on me. Coach, coach is wrong. Coach don't see. And sometimes, like I was kind of that middle point.
Yep.
Right. Where, hey man, I see what you're saying, but you got to see what he's saying. You got to understand this is his job.
It's his job.
And this is how he feeds Miss Dawn and their 3 daughters.
Correct.
And
he has a job to do.
Yeah.
And how did you propel that into getting to Clemson?
Clemson thing was interesting, man, and I think in this profession, I tell people all the time, it's never where you think, when you have this vision where you're going to coach, where you're going to end up,
right?
And it can just be so random. The year before, I actually met Coach Brownell at Emory. He came because he knew my college coach.
Right.
That was like 2 years before when I was a junior.
Relationships.
And I had applied for like a GA position that first year out of college. They didn't have an opening.
Gotcha.
Right.
So
why Clemson?
Just a bunch of spots. I mean, I applied everywhere.
Oh, okay, got it.
Like, and people that I had any sort of connection to.
Anybody you
and I
met.
wanted to be at that level. I wanted to get a taste of that level, and so they didn't have anything. And then the following year, I knew of some spots that were open. I was working camps, emailing,
right,
interviewing. I was close on some things that just fell through. And this is late. I mean, this is probably July. And a friend of mine called and said, hey, man, I think Clemson just had a GA spot open.
Really?
And so sure enough, I called. They kind of needed it. They said, hey,
South Carolina.
So that was on like a Saturday. They called me that night and said, hey, man, can you be here Monday to interview? I remember my suit was like kind of wrinkled. I remember I didn't have. At that time, I had like one suit, right? I had like 2 suits. And so, but I drove down there.
Listen, he's still living like a college student.
Yeah.
One suit? Yeah.
And so I drove down there on Sunday, 6-hour drive, whatever, nothing crazy, from D.C. area to South Carolina, and interviewed Monday, Tuesday, got over the job, And
wow.
Which that's how you met Coach Richard Riley.
That's right.
Riley.
And then Richard Riley gets the job at Nicholls. Takes you with him.
That's it.
And then
7 years ago.
And he turns the Nicholls program around.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It was like
around.
Nicholls program was so bad you won't hang yourself.
No.
That's how bad it was before Richie got there.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
I'm from Houston, so like I've been around the Southland my whole life.
Right.
Like, I know Nicholls. I know the league.
Right.
I know all these schools.
McNeese.
So Yeah, no, I know all these schools in Texas, Louisiana. I know this. There's obviously a difference in resources and budget when we're competing with against the Texas universities in Louisiana.
Correct.
And the obstacles that come with that, and what Richie did, man. I don't think people nationally even recognize the job that he did. To come in 2 years and win the league in his second year.
Right.
I mean, it was, and obviously now there's the transfer stuff. Richie was way ahead of his time with that, and I think what people don't necessarily realize now is it's easy. Like now, transfers can play right away.
Right, you had to sit out a year.
When Richie took over, he was investing like, hey, we're going to take 2 guys, and they're not going to play for a whole year.
But back then, Richard was taking grad transfers too, so grad transfers was able to play right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look at the year we won the championship, we had 2 All-League players. They both sat out the year before.
Gotcha.
My first year as head coach, I had 4 dudes sit out.
Yeah, D'Angelo Hunter was one of them.
D'Angelo Hunter, Dexter McClanahan, Andre Jones.
Andre Jones.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then the same with the next year. Najee Garvin was an All-League player. He sat out a year. Jalen Fornes. So. And I think that, Richie again, man, he had a vision. He was like, he's so motivated, man. He's as motivated as a coach I've ever been around. And just, works at it.
Works.
And I think that is still very much instilled in our program at Nicholls. Just that attitude of playing with the chip, being the underdog regardless of, I've been here long enough now, heading into year 7, including as an assistant coach, where I've been picked everything from first to last at Nicholls. So, just understanding that stuff doesn't matter.
And it's crazy how, you, Coach Aiken, y'all was under Richie, and both of y'all are head coaches in the Salt Lake Conference. We had Coach Aiken on the show.
We had Aiken on the show.
Yeah.
That's my man, dude.
Yep.
He's like a big niece. Yeah, he's like a big brother to me, man. Now we won't beat him every time we play him, but that's my guy, man. I've learned a lot from Coach Aiken too.
But listen, talk about some of the difference in basketball, man. Right now, like in today's basketball, we're watching a lot of guys shoot threes. I remember when I first started, playing basketball, like in high school. I played my junior, sophomore year, JV, broke my ankle, dumb. We didn't shoot that many. Basketball didn't shoot that many threes.
Yeah.
But in today's game, there's a lot of threes, even at the pro level. But speak about how the three-point shot has changed basketball and how have you installed that in kind of like what you do as a coach in terms of your team.
It's funny, like, especially at the pro level, right? Because I think what people probably don't take into account enough is, like, it's really like 2 different games. The NBA rules are tailored for offense, whereas the college rules are tailored for defense.
Right.
So of course, in your growing up, I did the same thing. Who do you watch? You watch the best players in the world. You watch Steph Curry. You watch, when I was growing up, Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, and you want to do what they did. So the handle and all that and the bag, that's what we watched.
Yep. The mid-range was more relevant
back then.
The elbow jumper.
And Correct. So now I think, of course, the way that, like you mentioned earlier, positionless basketball and being able to spread the floor from 5 spots at the NBA is it's imperative at the NBA. Like, if you're playing 2 traditional bigs, it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
In college,
Good luck,
doable.
Good luck, Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck.
And I just think, in college, I think that's the biggest thing that coaches fight. I think certainly I've seen it even for me. Like, man, we're going to come in and we're going to play this super. Now we play pretty fast, but we shoot a lot of threes. But I think if you come to a practice, we're really stressing inside out. Whether that's a post touch or guards driving it first and getting a paint touch. I certainly wouldn't just say that the Warriors' formula for success is what every college basketball team should be looking at. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? And that's
the thing. You don't even see that around college basketball.
Yeah.
A lot of the threes, it doesn't seem like it could just work at that level.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like you can just start, hey, listen, we'll come out here and just play this free shooting threes. Like, bro, in college basketball, you got to do a lot of rebounding.
Yeah. Well, I think just in general, man, like, not just that, but I think you got to also take into account, like, these are student athletes, so they're going to class, they're having some sort of a life outside of basketball,
Right.
It's just, when you talk about shooting, man, shooting is like I don't know what time it is in Oakland, but I bet Steph Curry shot already today. I bet all those dudes that get paid to shoot have already shot 1,000 shots this morning.
Right.
And with college, it's don't get me wrong. I mean, these kids work their butts off, and a lot of them are in there without a coach having to say anything. But I just think at the same time, it's two completely different games, and it's fun. I think as a coach, man, and I love being innovative, and I love seeing, oh man, you like watch these games tonight, man. There's some good games tonight, and I'll inevitably watch a play and be like, man, that's good, man. I don't know how can I install something like that,
right?
But at the end of the day, in college basketball, there's no defensive 3 seconds,
right?
So it's hard for. I mean, you can load up on one side of the court, make a dude pass. You can take a guy out of a game in college basketball so much easier than that of the NBA, And so I think there's much more strategy and coaching that falls onto the college game,
right?
Where the NBA is certainly more geared to the talent,
And it's so crazy that you say that because I went to Southeastern. I got to Southeastern in 2004, and Billy Kennedy was the head coach at the time. Steve Prong was on that staff. Larry Cordova, all those boys. Coach Banks, that was the head coach at Southern with the tournament. AD. He had a hell of a staff. And I remember going to some practices because I had a really good relationship with Coach Billy Kennedy. I actually tried out for the team my freshman year. I ain't make it, but I tried out.
Yeah, good luck.
Tried out. But that's neither here nor there. But I remember him stressing in practice when I used to go watch the practices. You live by the 3, you're gonna die by the 3.
Yeah.
And Billy Kennedy, he went to a tournament that year.
2005.
2005. They played Oklahoma State with the Graham twins.
That was kind of a good game for a little bit.
What?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
I remember that game. John, my guy John Lucas was on that team.
John Lucas.
John Lucas.
That was actually the year they went to the Final Four, right?
Yeah.
They lost to Georgia Tech. They lost Paul Hewitt and Georgia Tech.
Yep. And that's crazy. We just talking about Paul Hewitt.
I told you, man. I'm a student of the game. I remember all these teams.
But it's so crazy. I just remember Billy Kennedy and Steve Crom and them boys stressing, you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And now you fast forward to 2022, and now coaches want you to get jack these threes up.
Like jacking them up, bro.
The Lakers don't even have good shooting. Yeah. And they shot 41 threes last night.
Westbrook shouldn't have shot none, but continue.
41 threes, bro. So that just go to show you, to your point and your point, that the game has changed so much. And
I mean, Utah shot 45.
But it's funny because I actually think if you look at the real, and I don't want to say analytics, I don't think that's the right word, but I think if you look at all these teams that you think shoot threes really well in college basketball, like if you like look at Kansas, I think they shot a decent amount of threes last year.
Right.
I think you'd be surprised at actually the percentage of, not just the percentage of twos that they shot, but I bet they shoot a really high 2-point percentage. And I think the Warriors are the same way. Like, they don't get enough credit for their defense. They don't get enough credit for the amount of, like, their 2-point percentage offense.
Right.
And I think those things go into being a team that can shoot more threes. And actually, I know we're about to talk about the Pelicans at some point, but I think they shot, I looked at it last night, I think they shot 76 twos and 26 threes. And they shot 48% from 3 or something like that.
Right.
So it's like, and I don't think that's I think that percentage from 3 is a testament to, like, trying to attack the paint, fight for the paint. And when you shoot the right ones, like, your percentage is going to go up.
One of the things Willie Green was talking about in the offseason, he said that it will be times where he wants his team to play up and down, score the ball in 8 seconds. And it was like, why? He said, to get more possessions. The game has changed, and we're going to shoot more threes than we probably have ever done. And we're going to sprinkle some tools in too. But when you play up and down and play fast, you get more possessions. So all the threes that they're shooting, it kind of gets negated because you're getting extra possessions. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So it's a way to kind of manipulate this, in a sense. When you talk about how many threes people shooting now, and people like Willie Green and these good coaches in the NBA that's coming up, they're figuring a way that, okay, we got to evolve with the times, but we still got to do it in a way where we still get high percent of shots, like the 2-point shots, like you just was talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's exploded since 2000. If you go look at the stats prior to 2000, I think back in '99 and down, the average team in the NBA, there's only 2 teams that shot 23 a game. 2. They all shoot over 26 now.
It's amazing to watch. Like, if you go watch a game from, I'm not trying to start a war with the 80s or 90s guys, but, like, if you just go watch a game, like, a lot of times the point guards are just dribbling into 20 feet before they're even picked up by a defender. I mean,
Right.
you watch a game and they're just like they dribble into like 20 feet and pick the ball over their head and are able and now, not just the shooting but the defense. Like Patrick Beverly's picking you up at 60 feet,
60 feet.
And making you work and you're not just getting catches. And I think that the game, certainly when you talk about the hard fouls at the rim of the 90s, like that was super physical. But I think
Right.
if you're actually watching the gameplay and watching how guys are held on screens now, I think the gameplay actually today is more physical than it's ever been because these dudes are just they grab, they hold on screens, and certainly
I never
again
really
at the
heard
rim.
articulate like that, 'cause everybody want to talk about a hand check.
Well, I think I think obviously there's more fouls now that are called flagrants that would have just been regular fouls back then.
Correct.
I think that's obvious. But I
Right.
think when you're actually looking at the game and you look at the way the way these dudes screen,
Yeah.
like they don't call moving screens
Nah,
in the
nah,
NBA. Like and how
Nah.
these dudes hold Steph. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a physical game, man.
Yeah.
Physical.
Yeah. I do have a two-part question for you. I kind of compare you and Coach Richard Riley just watching what he did at Nicholls to John Calipari. And I'll tell you why. Because Calipari basically has a new team every year.
Right.
Basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when Richie got there, and since you've been there, y'all bring a lot of transfers in. So I kind of equate that to what Calipari did at Kentucky, bringing in new freshmen every year.
Rather
You
you the
know,
opposite.
just
of
kind of
Bruce-
having
you're the opposite of Bruce Pearl.
kind of having a new team in a sense, and you've been very successful doing that. You and Coach Richard Riley when he was the head coach at Nicholls. What has been the formula for that to be able to get these guys the mesh that's coming from some of them coming from bad programs, some of them coming from good programs? How have you been able to get those guys the mesh and equate it into winning and being able to win the Southland Conference? And my second part question is, how would you have handled the situation with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green?
So, well, with the
You know I had to come
with
with some this.
the first part, I think one thing it's when you talk about a formula, I think what I would tell young coaches is first and foremost, like you got to be you. I've always been a guy. I grew up around the game. If I know you guys know my story. Like I lived internationally. I lived in all these different types of places. So I've always just been a guy that made new friends, picked up quick with people, great relationships, like love just like building bonds with people.
Right.
Like that. I love that. That's part of like why I do what I do, and that's why I like to get out and play pickup with our dudes or mess around. And to me, if you want to coach guys hard and get guys to buy in, you've got to truly develop a relationship. It can't just be. And I think that's the problem. The problem is there's a stigma around transfers that it's very transactional.
Correct.
And that doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
You don't have to be that way.
And
I
so
agree.
now again, if I enjoy I think I can get a guy and within a month or two help him see the vision of what we have and how he can grow as a person and a player, win, and how that's going to improve and what he's going to have, a lifelong bond and win, and just and how that's going to happen.
I agree.
But if that's not your thing as a coach, then you shouldn't do it.
You shouldn't do it.
You shouldn't do it. You should recruit differently.
Right.
And it's not about right or wrong. At the end of the day, I mean, we have a job to do. We have to win games. We have to help our guys graduate. We have to, and for me, it's important that they're getting. I tell our recruits all the time, man. My college basketball experience was the best experience of my life. I talked to my college coach 3 times a week. I just got back from New York 2 weeks ago. Went to my shooting guard's wedding.
Come on, man.
And it was great. And I want our guys to have that experience. And
You build those relationships. Those relationships that stick
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. They
And
just don't disappear.
I think we're going to win games. I think, we're going to win more championships. But if you don't value the other side of it, then it's not going to be everything you want here at Nicholls. And so
You make it sound so easy.
I mean, I love it. I just.
That's not easy
you
bringing
know.
in a kid that's been at Troy State for 3 years, getting his head beat in, and to bring him into your culture where y'all do things differently, practice hard, and it's a high intensity practice. Fred, listen, high intensity. You think he's a maniac? I'm telling you, to get him to come in and buy in the first year and still be able to equate that to winning. That's not easy.
Yeah, I just think, but I think one thing I think we don't give kids enough credit for is like they can see what's real, they can see what's authentic, you
Right.
know, and like
Give a discernment.
And don't and like you know, I mean, just honestly, in recruiting, and then certainly when they get there, I mean, don't lie to them, you know.
Shoot
I
straight.
think, you know, and then maybe it's not going. I mean, I've had
Difficult
we've
conference.
had a bunch of successful transfers, but we've had some guys that have had to sacrifice. It didn't go the way they wanted to.
Right.
You know, I mean,
You
we
come down, you got to sit down.
and those guys, you know, I talked to one of them this past week, and he certainly didn't maybe have the career at Nicholls that he wanted to, but he graduated. He's a champion. He's still kind of grinding, trying to work his way through, maybe potentially playing somewhere. And I'm in his corner for the rest of our life. That's a bond
100%.
that we build.
Right.
And when
Right.
you know, certainly like when I went to school and played for Coach Jason Zimmerman, like that was we trusted him. My family trusted him, and he was in my corner. He's still in my corner, right? And so,
And I remember for your press conference when you first got introduced, you thanked him and you was like, man, I don't know if this is being streamed or not, but Coach, I love you.
yeah,
You know,
that's my guy.
that says a lot about
Says a lot.
a former player saying that about his coach.
No, for sure. The Draymond Jordan Poole situation, man. You know,
One, I mean, I know you don't have to say any names or anything like that. Have you ever witnessed anything like that in practice?
not like that. I mean, we've had some dust ups now.
Right.
I think any team with championship aspirations, and look, that's just my personality, right?
Yeah.
And I tell our guys all the time, listen, we're not gonna fight. Like we're not gonna throw punches.
Right.
We're not gonna.
I got gloves.
No, we don't got gloves, but you know, but I'd rather have
Boxing
you know,
matches.
I'd
Boxing matches.
rather have like some times where, hey man, we got to get some dudes away from each other in a practice than we're just kind of going through the motions, and there's not. And I just think in great
Right.
programs, man, there's got to be moments of friction.
Yeah.
You know. Now again, that particular situation where I'm not there. But they're talking about money. There's off the court
Yeah,
stuff.
you know.
That's a whole different deal.
Right,
But in terms of our team, like again, we're not gonna punch each other. Like we're not gonna do that. Like obviously something would have to. There'd have to be some sort of reprimand.
Right.
But it's at the end of the world. The guys are fighting. If it's within the lines of like competition, no, that's not the end of the world to me. Now if there's stuff going on outside the locker room and there's issues, man to man, then you guys sit down and obviously figure that out, because that can come between the mission between the lines.
between the
But if
between the team.
heck, we got practice at 2:00. Who knows what'll happen today?
Right.
We're gonna get out here and compete, and it's like we talked about with some of the guys that we talked about on our team earlier. Man, I want to see a little bit more of that fire. I want to see
Right.
a dog. I want to and part of a coach is if you want guys to play with that passion every single day, then sometimes you're gonna have to deal with situations, similar to that. Maybe not a guy getting
Not to
cold
that
clocked,
extent, right.
a guy getting drafted.
Yeah. Matt Barnes, and a lot of different NBA players came out and talked about this, but particularly Matt Barnes said that when he was at UCLA and in the NBA, he said that was the norm. He said it might not have been to the extent of how Draymond Green did it, but
Right.
he said that was the norm. And he said the only difference is it never got out.
It never got out. It never.
And,
it
and
never
like
got.
Kendrick Perkins talked about it. A lot of like Stephen A. came out and said that he has witnessed things like that happening from talking to different former players and players that's in the league currently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I went through it in high school, and that's at the high school level. So I can only imagine at the college and the pro level.
It's that level of competition. But it sounded like from the way it looked like something that was outside of.
No, it looked like he was holding on to that. Like he had that punch loaded up. Like he had been saving that.
I'm just amazed that Jordan Poole, they showed him like 30 minutes after it happened. He's getting shots up.
Yeah.
He has no marks on his face.
Yeah.
Like, did Draymond Green just hit him in his, like, the top of his head? Like, what?
Yeah, it's hard. I guess it's hard to see where.
Listen, I'm surprised that he's getting them shots 30 minutes later.
30 minutes later.
I'm in my feelings.
Yeah, I mean,
Jordan
I get
Poole, look, he just got, 140 M?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not
Listen,
thinking
I
about
ain't gonna
anything.
lie. I'd have been mad, but he knew they was in contract negotiations.
Of course.
He knew that.
I'm gonna keep my cool.
It's funny. I think.
Contract signed.
Yeah,
I
right.
catch one.
Yeah, and obviously, I've gotten into it with teammates. I've never been punched like that by a teammate, But like, I do think it is funny when you sit back and you see it happen to somebody else, or you see it happen in another situation. You just think, oh, like, I'd be so mad. But I can remember kind of, even if something happens at Nicholls where guys get dusted up and you separate.
Right.
I mean, 30 seconds later, we're back to playing. And they're fine.
Right.
And so
they dusted
now
off.
again, that was an extreme situation with the Warriors, but I think if anybody can handle it, it's the world champs.
Let me ask you a question. Speaking about the world champs, let's get on NBA.
Come on.
Do you think they have a chance to repeat? The NBA season's about to start. We're underway.
Oh, yeah.
You think they're going to be like this team to beat? Or who you think possibly in the West or in the East that can continue with you? You think the Pels can probably knock them off? You think they can finish at? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Golden State has been highlighted because not just, with Steph and Clay and the Splash Brothers, but they've been advertised as having a lot of young depth on that team behind the starters.
Yeah.
Where do you think they can end up at? Where do you think the Pels can the Pels, end up, maybe
He don't care about the Pels.
I like the Pels.
He's a Rockets fan like me.
I'm a Rockets fan.
I root for the Pels.
I'm a Rockets
but
fan.
I'm a diehard Rockets.
Right, we know the Rockets ain't gonna end up
Stop. Chill out.
in this.
We're in a different process right now.
Yeah.
We're in a different process.
Playing
I'm cool
game,
with it.
playing game talks.
I'm cool with the journey.
Maybe. I'd
Playing
love
game?
to make the playing game.
Playing game.
I'd love to make the playing game.
I love what the
I might
NBA.
go.
I love what the NBA did with the playing game. To me, it looks like that stepping stone that you hit. Look, if you could win like that 9th or 10th game and you get in here, it looks like you're building towards something. I love that idea of that
too.
playing game.
Yeah.
So that's where y'all at right now.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're working toward. We got a vision though. The Pels. I think they're gonna be right there for a 4 or 5 seed. I mean, I think the goal for the Pels should probably be to try to get a home playoff series, right? I mean, I think that's what they should try to do. Where they start.
As a fan of the Pels, that's what I hope for too.
Yeah.
I just hope that a lot of fans, at their ads, we got Zion back, BI's there, McCollum is there. I think they kind of have their nucleus together. A lot of expectations are gonna come.
BI was the best player on the floor last night.
I told
Over
him
KD?
this. We had an argument.
Last night.
We had
he's
But look,
coming, man.
Me and him had an argument about 2 months ago if the Pelicans want to reach the promised land, which is the NBA Finals. He thinks that Zion has to be their best player. I said, no, B.I. has to be their best player because he can score at all 3 levels.
I mean, I would say they have to have BI, but I would never. Like, I think Zion. It's kind of like, to me, like the Giannis Middleton thing, right? Like, Middleton's
Right.
not better than Giannis, but they got to have Middleton too.
Correct.
Right? Like,
I
obviously.
think that's a bad comparison.
I'm not saying like what I'm saying is I think Zion is more valuable overall than Brandon Ingram, but they're not. Yes. Yeah. I mean, what were they last year without Zion? They were like what? They got the playing game, or they were
Playing
7
game.
or 8.
Playing game. They actually with the.
But so
Nice seed,
if
the
B.I.
nice-
if B.I. didn't play and they had Zion,
This year, full year.
no, last year.
But what about this year without BI and they had Zion? You think they wouldn't be? You think they'd?
Well,
I think they're still a top 6 seed.
I do too.
I think they're the top 6 seed.
I don't know. It's just I'm just
Even
big
without.
on guys that can, because
I don't know about better. Maybe that's not the right word.
in the playoffs, you know how I get, man. Them dudes gonna load up.
That's what I'm saying.
And you need somebody that can score that elbow jumper, knock down the 3, be dynamic in that kind of way. I just don't see Zion.
I agree with that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think it's why. I mean, to me, it's why the Bucks didn't win the championship because Chris Middleton didn't.
Chris
play.
Middleton didn't play.
So that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
but Giannis is obviously their best player.
Yeah.
But they still got to have Chris Middleton. Like, I think
Correct.
Zion. He's not obviously Giannis and Middleton. There's more of a gap than there is
Correct.
between Zion
Correct.
and BI. But I guess my point is, like, when it comes to your point, playoff basketball, they're gonna need BI because of his ability to score.
He be able to score basically anywhere on that floor. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I think he's becoming the player that, in terms of you can't stop him from getting to his spot now.
Right.
He's getting to that point where, if it comes to on his basketball floor, getting to my spot, you can't stop me. And I think he's reaching the point where it doesn't matter who's guarding him.
Right.
He don't care if whatever brand recognition you are. He don't care. He's like, I'm gonna get to my spot. There's nothing you can really do about this. It's either I miss or it's buckets.
Yeah.
And I think he's reached that level of confidence, and I think he's played enough games to where he feel like he's that dude. Yeah. And I don't want to take nothing from B. I think he's evolving into being the all-star caliber
He was
player.
all-star last year.
Yeah. He's all-star caliber.
Just saying.
He's gonna be a consistent all-star.
Yeah.
But what's gonna propel the Pelicans?
Now, he wrong for how his hell was on the night.
He bad. He need to
Come on, man. It's open tonight.
Get the braids,
Come on,
man.
bro.
Go ahead. Get the braids. Get the braids, man.
I mean, whatever he's got to do what he did. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, but get the braids, man. Get the 2 plats and call it a day.
Yeah. Coach, man, I know you got to get to practice for 2 o'clock.
I'm good, man. I got a couple more minutes.
Yeah,
man.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you guys play this year
Opening night when they open up
against Arizona.
Arizona, baby.
November
Arizona.
7th, huh?
Yeah, out there in Tucson. It's going to be
man.
fun, man.
Yeah.
They.
What's up with Nicholls getting like top 25?
But see, I'm gonna tell you
Opening
something.
nights.
I'm gonna tell you
We got
something.
3 of them now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you
I'm
something.
saying. Houston last year.
I'm gonna tell you something. He lives for these moments. He lives for seeing what his team match up.
Yeah.
Living for the upset. I remember when y'all beat Pittsburgh that year with
That's right.
Capel. Was
Yeah.
the coach?
Yeah.
I remember
The
that.
game before that, we had lost to Illinois in overtime.
Overtime.
And I think I mean it's fun. I mean it's one of those things where obviously of course like the biggest part behind it is of course we're raising money for athletic department.
Correct.
And for what trying to help our university as a whole.
Yep.
Correct.
This year
Correct.
we're raising over $500K for the university, and that's a big part of
Big part of it.
Go a long way.
that goes a long way for everybody in Thibodeau. And then of course I want to have guys that want to play in those games. I mean
Right.
that goes without saying. And then even for me, I mean, like I said, I'm a student of the game. I mean, basketball is my love. It's my first love, and I mean, I sometimes I even just we're standing up there against Wisconsin. It's like, man, we're in the Kohl Center. This is a legendary venue. Pitt.
Correct.
And this year, Arizona, like it's gonna be an incredible experience. Not just
Y'all played
For-
Purdue. Y'all played
Purdue
Ivy.
last year.
Jay
Yeah,
Ivy.
yeah.
Jay Ivy.
We played well that game too. I was proud of our guys that game. We actually had a 3 to cut it to single digits with about 8 minutes left. They ended up stretching it again, but yeah, Jaden Ivey, that was probably the best venue I've ever coached.
And y'all
in.
played Villanova when Richard was there. Y'all played
was an
Villanova
assistant.
when they won.
That's right.
the
yeah.
championship
Yeah,
that year.
they had all them dudes, man. Brunson, DiVincenzo,
Brunson.
yeah, Phil Booth, Spellman, Bridges.
Yep.
Yeah, Mikhail, yeah.
Bridges, Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kel.
Jermaine Samuels just graduated. Was the point guard? Gillespie was a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So they were unbelievable.
And I think that, like I tell kids all the time in high
Right.
school, right? Everybody wants to go high major. That's just what it is.
That's what it
right?
is.
And I tell kids, I'm like, if you can't go high major and you have to go to a Southland Conference or a Sun Belt, you're still going to get opportunities to play against these high majors.
Yeah.
Like, y'all played Baylor.
Yeah, we
the
got
national
Baylor,
champion.
Yeah.
Texas Tech this year.
Texas,
y'all
yeah, I played Texas Tech,
Mississippi
too.
State.
But y'all played Baylor last year, too.
Yeah, we played. Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so my point is, you're going to have, if you think you're like that, if you think you are high major,
Right.
you're going to have opportunity to play against these high majors. It's not so much like in football where you might play one high major school in non-conference.
yeah.
In basketball, you might get 6, 5, 7.
It happens.
Yeah, and
Because there's more games to be played.
Yeah, and
so the scheduling could work out in their
yeah,
favor.
and so it's not an excuse
Yeah.
to say, "Oh, I have to go high major to be looked at." You're gonna get opportunities.
You're going to get opportunities.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a recruiting tool as well. I mean, at the end of the day, we know what we got to do. We got to win the conference regular season and the conference tournament, right?
Correct.
The overall record doesn't really matter. I mean, and of course, we're trying to go 30-0, right? But you're also trying to, like you just said, man, you're trying to give kids exposure.
Correct.
We got guys that, from last year to 3 years before, man, guys that, like you mentioned, have come from maybe a higher level, and didn't get that opportunity and want to prove that, hey, man, we can play at this level. And we're as good as, these guys that maybe are getting more praise and more recognition.
But not just that, but those kids, because you got to understand, those NBA scouts are at those games.
Yeah.
So somebody could, the work that you could do to make somebody who's being, scouted at the NBA level.
Yeah.
You could indirectly, because you played a guy like Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
You could have one of your kids who did a good job against him and say, man, who is that kid?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now you don't even realize that the spotlight is on you, and somebody may be deciding, you know what? Let me see what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you look at the team record and you see what's going on. You see how that kid keep progressing and progressing and progressing. And all of a sudden, it sounds crazy, but you may end up in the G League. You may not get drafted, but listen, now you're playing basketball.
It's all about opportunity.
Yeah, you get an opportunity to
about
possibly
opportunity.
get there, and you say, damn, how I got here?
It's all about opportunity.
Opportunities.
Ty got invited to the Portsmouth Invitational last year, which is, it's like 55 or 60 something. It's invite only for seniors, like every senior across the country. And he was one of the only mid-major guys to get an invite. And I think it's great that he was Player of the Year in the Southland. But I think a big part of the reason he got the invite was because he had 29 at Purdue. He had 26, and we almost beat Wisconsin. He had 21, and we beat the Missouri Valley champs. And so I think, like you're saying, man, it's a big part of it. It's a big part of it.
Man, I remember you probably don't remember this, but I remember the first time me and you really had a conversation is when Bonneville and Temple High played in the playoffs. You and Coach Aiken was there.
That's right.
Packed house.
Packed.
And I remember, like, I was covering the game, and I was, like, talking to you guys, like, throughout the whole game. I think that's when me and you really kind of, okay, man, like, yeah, Claunch cool dude. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, right. And, man, I just foresee nothing but good things happening for you going forward. Innovative, man, passionate, care about them kids, and, man, I'm rooting for you. I can't wait to see what you guys do this year, man, your 5th season.
I appreciate you, man. And seriously, no, I do remember that. And I think a big part of why I've been so lucky here is I do think it's been just a perfect match of, like, my energy with just the culture and community in South Louisiana.
Yep.
And it's hard to explain. You try to explain to people, and again, it sounds cliche. I feel like Clemson, when I was there for 3 years, is a very special place. You got to kind of be there to understand it. I think South Louisiana is very much the same way, man. And it's just there's an attitude and a spirit down here that when
you got to be here to understand.
You get players here that like fall in love with it and they don't leave. I mean, you get somebody like Tavon Sadler here from Baltimore, Maryland. It gets down here and he's like, "Where the hell am I at?" And then he doesn't ever want to leave. He's a coach here, and that's just one example. And I think we have a lot of guys, man, and just I'm a kid from Texas that had never really had any experience in Louisiana, and I don't ever want to leave. You know, and so
Even one of your coaches, Coach Joey, went to Cal Fullerton.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is in California, bro. Right. He's like, man, I couldn't wait.
I gotta get back to Thibodeau, man.
Bro, I was in Cali, bro. Yeah. You love Cali to come back to Thibodeau, Louisiana, bro. Like, and that just go to show you. You know what I'm saying? So that just go to show you.
I'm always gonna be occasion.
Tri-parish effect. Come back to the tri-parish.
You know that.
I'm always gonna be occasion, but I'm never gonna put a Saints beat on. I'm never gonna do that.
And look, we gonna sign out on that note.
Oh Lord.
Who that?
Listen.
No Cowboys, baby.
Listen. Austin. Listen, I hope y'all win the NFC East. I hope y'all do.
Come on, man.
I do.
Come on, man.
First of all, let's get something clear.
Well, don't be a hater. You know what I mean? I'd root for the Saints.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't, man.
I would.
Lying, man.
Listen, my original prediction was they had the best offense. They had the most yards. They had the number one offense last year. They had the most yards. I was like, listen, I told y'all, Cowboys going to win the division. So don't show. Okay.
Before we go, are the Saints going to win tonight? Now you don't want to talk about football anymore. Now you don't want to talk about football anymore.
We decimated by injuries.
You gonna hear this?
I'm not confident about tonight. DeAndre Hopkins coming back.
Listen,
D-Hop is coming back.
Here's the deal.
I just don't know.
Between the Cardinals or the Saints, whichever team loses, because they're both 2-4.
Yeah,
you're done.
They're done. You're done.
You're done.
The season's over. They got problems in Arizona. Clisbury, his guy, Kyler Murray. They got disarray going on. Hop coming back. You lose Hollywood Brown. A lot of disarray. You trade for Robbie Anderson over there.
Who just cursed his position coaches out.
But let him have it on TV.
Yeah.
It's disarray down in Arizona.
We'll see.
Over here, we can't keep a guy healthy.
I had an old, I'm not going to tell you who, but I had an old coach that used to say, don't ever underestimate how messed up the other team is. You know? I'm taking the Saints tonight. 24-20. Mark these down. Write these down.
Right.
24-20.
Let's save the season tonight. Let's save the season tonight. And that's how we're going to end episode 4 of Fanview.
Look, y'all can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BigHenry Jones. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, _G Sportz with a Z on the end. And on Twitter, G_Sportz with a Z on the end.
You can follow me on Instagram at big_homie_hen and on Twitter at HeyYoU15.